So one of the rules that I've always had for myself from the very beginning of this journey was that if I was going to do YouTube, if I was going to be more vocal in my opinions, the number one rule I was always going to follow was that I was going to be authentic and I was going to be true to myself no matter what other people thought of it. And sometimes I'm going to be right and sometimes I'm going to be wrong, and that is just the way it is when you're putting a stake in the ground and actually expressing an opinion rather than, being kind of like a fence sitter where you say, oh, I could go this way, I could go that way. No, I will. If I have a strong opinion about something, I'm going to express it and I'm going to tell you what I think. And some of you are going to agree and some of you are not. And I preface this video with that because I know for sure exactly what is going to happen as soon as I post this video. I'm going to have a metric F ton of thumbs down. I'm going to have you guys declaring that I was never a real walkway and I never supported Trump and I am fake and all these things. And you're going to publicly declare that you're unsubscribing from my channel in grand dramatic fashion. And none of that's going to sway me because I'm still allowed to actually have an opinion. And so here is the unpopular opinion that I'm going to express today. I never bought into Sidney Powell's Venezuela thing. I never did. I remember the very first time I actually started paying attention to this was when someone sent me a clip of her describing it on Newsmax. I believe this was before the big press conference that they did, and she went into this whole long explanation about how these software machines that were used in all these different states that had different names were all connected with Maduro and Chavez and Venezuela, and all our votes were going outside the country. It was this huge international conspiracy theory scandal, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician. I'm not an expert in any capacity. I am a completely just average person off the street, but I happen to have a world-class BS detector, and my BS detector was sounding like I'm like, Mayday, 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 this is not true. This is not true. So I really haven't bought into it from the very beginning. Now, just because I don't believe this whole Venezuela thing is true does not mean that there are not absolutely legal questions and challenges that I do think have significantly more merit. For instance, if we're looking at the legal challenges, and this is, I believe this is the argument that they're taking in Pennsylvania specifically, if we are looking at the legal challenge of there are areas in which Democrat ballots were being fundamentally treated differently than Republican ballots, if those were not being treated equally, then that is a violation of equal protection under the law. That is a very clear constitutional question, and I think that all those ballots that were treated differently should be, frankly, thrown out. And that's a case that we're going to have to go see to the Supreme Court because all of our votes should be treated the same. This is fundamental. But the problem with this is that it's not sexy. It doesn't have the grand storytelling arc of something like these software machines were connected with Venezuela. I mean, I'm sorry, that's like, if you're going to make an argument like that, you need to provide evidence to back it up. And if this evidence does exist, because I'll say this, I have heard from multiple people who have better connections than I do, who know more than I do, who have said that they have heard that the campaign really does have something big. Well, you know what? Maybe they do. But if it is related to this whole Venezuela story, then they need to bring the public along by providing evidence. Now, what you're going to say, you're going to say one of two things, and I know this because I've been going back and forth on Twitter for several days regarding this. So you're going to say one of two things. You're going to say, Carlin, you don't really think that the lawyers would try the case in the media, do you? Well, no, that's not the point. The lawyers held a whole press conference on Thursday of last week in which they laid out what they called their opening argument. And by the way, in that press conference last Thursday, they also said, Rudy Giuliani said several times that Sidney Powell was a senior member of Trump's legal team and that she was in charge of it right beside him. And I know that because I just watched the press conference last night for the first time after Jenna Ellis released this statement. So if you need a little bit of a catch up, what has happened since the original Thursday press conference with Trump's legal team where they attempted to create an opening argument which shows that they can communicate directly with the public without going through the media, quite frankly. Several days later, just last night on Sunday the 22nd, Jenna Ellis tweeted out this statement on Trump's legal team. Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. And it was signed Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, both of them saying they are a member of Trump's legal team. Well, what changed since Thursday? What changed since Thursday? Really, the biggest thing that I can see that has changed is that the coverage of this whole affair was so overridden by Sidney Powell's crazy Venezuela story without evidence that everything else got drowned out. And those everything else, those other avenues that they're taking, the other actual lawsuits that they have, those are actually much more viable than Sidney Powell's Venezuela thing. They just are, guys. I'm sorry. I know that this is not news you want to hear, and goodness knows I'm not a lawyer, but I have actually, paid attention to what lawyers are saying on this, and many of them actually agree with me. And again, I'm an average person, and this is just my perception of it, but I'm not out on a limb all by my own here. Actually, if you haven't yet watched it, watch the live stream that Viva Frey and Barnes Law did last night on this topic, and Robert Barnes just lays it out completely about why he thinks that, Sidney Powell has kind of frankly screwed herself in this. Now, I'm going to say this, and I said it in this tweet right here. I was retweeting Ian Miles Chung, who was basically, he and I were kind of along the same lines of thinking last night. Although he seems to have been corralled back in. I don't know what's going on there, but he tweeted out a few days ago, I expressed hopes that Sidney Powell would have things in order and that she wouldn't throw her reputation away on a conspiracy theory. With the Trump legal team's distancing, there is nothing to do but accept the reality that she may have taken everyone for a ride. Now, I don't necessarily think that Sidney Powell did this maliciously. I don't think she did it on purpose. But the fact is that she never presented any evidence. And it seems as though not only did she not present evidence to the public, she wasn't even giving evidence to the White House. She wasn't even giving evidence to other people on the legal team. And that is a problem, folks. That is an absolute problem. This is the problem that Tucker Carlson called them out for. And, and you guys dogpiled on him for that. Listen, the opposite of Trump derangement syndrome is not pro-Trump derangement, which I'm going to define as, deranged thinking, frankly, in which Trump is this mastermind that has this 5D chess thing constantly going, and everything he does is right and calculated and all this stuff. That's just another side of Trump derangement syndrome, dude. You've got to be practical, and you have to look at the evidence. Now, here is where I currently sit, and frankly, it's been exactly the same place I've been in since Election Day, when it was clear that there was going to be a lot of shenanigans and legal nonsense that was about to occur over the next several weeks. I always said from the very, very beginning that I thought what was going to happen was the media was going to declare Joe Biden the winner, and that this was ultimately going to go to the Supreme Court, where I thought that Trump had a really good, frankly, shot of winning. It seems as though he also has passed in with the House, that the House is going to ultimately be the ones to conduct a vote if they go down that route of basically convincing everyone that there was enough corruption in this election that they have to go by the process laid out in the Constitution, which is then the electors in the House conduct a vote, and in that case, Trump would probably win too. We don't know, but here's where I stand right now. And I tweeted this out last night, and I want to be very, very clear about it, which is why I'm going to just read directly. I said in response to Ian's statement, I think that this is a very possible reality. I said from the start that I wanted evidence, that being that Sidney Powell got bought into a conspiracy theory and took everyone for a ride. I think that that is a very possible reality. It's also possible that they do have something and are okay with playing games with public opinion, which, by the way, guys, is not a small thing. I know a lot of you don't think that public opinion matters. You think that the court is the only thing that matters. But frankly, I care enough about this country that I don't want to see a civil GD war if the Trump team actually ends up being correct. And that's exactly what would happen, because the media has taken control of the narrative at this point and has coronated Joe Biden as the president-elect. And any reversal of that, whether it comes through the courts or it comes through the House ultimately voting on this, is going to create a lot of problems. And one of the reasons it's going to create problems is that I don't think that Trump's legal team has effectively brought the public along with what they're working on. And public opinion absolutely does matter. If they're a massive, let's just pause it for a second. If Trump ends up winning this, he gets in second term, there are massive riots all day, every day, all over the country. You don't think that's going to completely distract from whatever Trump would be able to accomplish otherwise, is he's having to invoke the Insurrection Act to put down massive riots simply because the Trump legal team did not effectively communicate with the public. They need to go hire a dang PR team, man, because their communication is really, really, really bad. You have to bring people along with these stories. You have to bring people along with these ideas. You just can't like throw a massive like mind F out there and expect everyone to instantly jump on board. And that is exactly what, I'm going to use quotes, overturning the election is. If the Trump legal team ends up being victorious in their pass, then it will be like they threw a bomb out onto all the normies out there who don't pay attention like you do, don't pay attention like I do, don't have access to all this information, and suddenly it seems as though their entire system of government has just experienced a coup because you didn't effectively bring them along. So I go on to say, I'm sitting in the middle and managing my expectations until there is evidence. I want every legal path to be explored as much as it can be. If it's not, then I don't think we can have faith in the result. But that doesn't mean jumping on board with crazy theories without evidence. If she ever brings the goods, I'll be glad for it. And that is honestly true, man. Listen, apparently Sidney Powell is going to continue to work on this. Apparently she's running her own separate legal thing. It's unclear to me how connected all of this is. I mean, Lynn Wood is tweeting out things saying that they're all on the same team. Jenna Ellis actually followed up with a tweet. We can even look at her timeline. She followed up with a tweet that was basically Sidney Powell's statement, in which she said, I agree with this statement today. I will represent we the people and seek the truth. I intend to expose all the fraud and let the chips fall where they may. We will not allow the foundations of this great republic to be destroyed by abject fraud. This is a PR bungle on their part. And my greatest hope in this is that the Trump legal team is able to stay focused enough to pursue the paths that I think have a much better shot of actually exposing the fraud that they're asserting took place, and that I think many of us can see with our naked eye, to be honest. But you know what? Listen, if they end up losing this battle and going down in flames, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to call it, it will be a situation of their own creation. They're not communicating effectively with the public. They're obviously not coordinating because we have different stories coming out from all of them now, different statements that are being made. People are confused. They don't know where to go. And this is why I say emphatically that it is really important to manage your expectations in this regard, because this could go one way, this could go the other way. And you don't want your world completely blown up if it doesn't go the way you want it to go. So I'm going to continue to fight as much as I can for this. I just got back from Atlanta last night. We're going to see what else is going on, but listen, I'm going to continue to fight. I think that the legal paths need to be pursued. I do not want Trump to give up. I do not want him to concede. I think he should fight it to the very, very end. And if it goes his way, great. If it doesn't, he can go do something else and then go run again in 4 years. We still have a whole bunch of battles that we need to fight regardless. And, you know, in some ways, it might be okay if Biden assumes the presidency, because it honestly, I think, would make some of these battles a lot easier to fight in the long run. Not that I want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. But if it does, we always have to look for opportunity in whatever situation we're presented ourselves. So I might lose your subscription on this video, but if you enjoyed that I told it like I think it is, and I'm honest with you, that I'm trying to present different sides of the argument, hey man, you can also subscribe as well to balance out all those people who are going to get hysterical over me having a difference of opinion and unsubscribe. You can balance them out by hitting subscribe below, turning on notifications, giving it a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.